everyone, and welcome to this panel on the global Silicon Valley. There's been a lot of panels over the last few days, but I'm most excited about this because startups are essentially the future of Abu Dhabi. So we're joined by an amazing panel of interesting folks. Noor, I want to start with you, if I can. And can you talk to me about the landscape of startups in the UAE, the types of companies, and how kind of exciting the industry is?
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. When we think about the UAE as an investment destination, not just a capital formation destination, and we take a look at the startups that we see here, we take a look at two types of startups generally in our firm. The first are really building for the region. So they've identified white spaces in the region, building from here, and some great examples include Tabby, which is now a $5 billion BNPL, based out of here, really becoming a first port of call for credit. So companies based here, but that are really addressing large problems for the region with a slightly different flavor than an international might. So thinking back to Tabby, first port of credit in a region that is massively underbanked with low credit card penetration. The other half of the portfolio that we look at building are companies based here that are building for the world. And so why bother doing that from here? Why does a startup have the right to win when they're based here? And again, we take a look at the portfolio now. We have about a dozen companies that have more US, European revenues than regional revenues, but they first started here and we invested when they were only here. And the reason that they're able to do that and really leapfrog is the lack of incumbents. So you asked me what it's like building here. When you're building here and you're building in an industry that, you're not trying to change the industry, you're creating an industry. So if you're thinking about supply chain, technology, logistics, you're creating that industry with a regulator that wants that to work. If you're thinking about fintech or financial inclusion, 8 years ago as a region we were 85% unbanked, now we're 51% unbanked. Nobody built banks. So as a fintech, you're coming in to create industries. As a health tech, you're coming to create an industry. And you take a look systematically across all these, even agriculture right now, we still import 85% of our food. 5 or 10 years from now, that is unlikely to be the case. So when you think about agriculture and food, how do you create a food industry? So founders based here really have that ability to take a look at an industry and say, this is a white space, manufacturing, you name it, or there's a lot to be done here. And the regulators take a look and say, we want this to work. How can we enable and support within the guardrails? And as an investor, you come in and say, wait, there are no incumbents. How can we enable your scale very, very quickly? And those solutions often, it's not that the founder is thinking outside the box, there is no box. So once the founder actually cracks that, generates revenue, starts to scale, really the world is their oyster and they manage to go global. So when we think about investing here, those are the two frameworks. Is it regional white space with a great TAM, but limited a little bit, risk is limited, or is it a global company building from somewhere where there's lack of incumbents, friendly regulators, and incredible talent?
And you're based on the ground in the UAE, so I'm curious to get your perspective on Hub 71. I mean, we're in Abu Dhabi. Is that really helping to incubate startups here locally, and what is the role that plays?
Hub 71 specifically, you asked about, I think is a fantastic platform. It's been around since 2019. We, as Global Ventures, we're regulated in ADGM since 2018, so one of the first VC funds to be regulated out here, investing across the region. We're now managing $400 million, 70 companies. A bunch of those came from Hub 71. We're very active in building this ecosystem, and we are actually hosting an event at Hub 71 tomorrow, 11 a.m., if everybody wants to join, with a few of our founders. Some of them have come out of that incubator. Some of them have come from other incubators around the region.
And I'm going to go to Simon now at the end there. Can you talk about any startups that really excite you in the UAE at the moment? I mean, every time I order food on Talabat, I'm coming across startups. But can you tell me some of the names that excite you locally here in the UAE?
Oh, yeah. So let me start with my first impression to the Abu Dhabi. So it was early 2020, the time just before COVID crazy started. So I invited by Milken conference. There was only one session for the blockchain and crypto at Milken Abu Dhabi. So that was my first visit to Abu Dhabi. And you might already have seen the Galleria Mall filled with the crowded. But at that days, Galleria Mall was pretty empty. So not only for the Galleria Mall, I visited the Hub 71 in 2020, January. It was also pretty empty. So I got some vision and the mission of the government and the leadership of the here, but it could not believe that within few years, Abu Dhabi and UAE can be a populated startup ecosystem like this. By the way, as one of the contributor of the Hub 71 ecosystem, our company Hashit is partnering to their digital asset special program as an advisor and judge as well. So the reason why, my venture capital Hashit started from South Korea. So we are specialized venture capital for the Web3 and crypto and blockchain related stuff. But you know that the most important thing for the blockchain related startup is a regulatory friendly environment. So the Singapore was a great environment for the crypto startup for the past few years. But these days, absolutely, Abu Dhabi and Dubai offer the most regulatory friendly environment for the Web3 startup in the world. So that's the reason why we expanded our office in ADGM, and we are in progress about getting the license here. So along with our journey, we are very excited about seeing the lots of blockchain and Web3 related companies and talent moving here. So so far we have invested more than 150 portfolios in the Web3 ecosystem all over the world, and many of them are migrating their office to Abu Dhabi and Dubai these days. So that's the reason why we are seeing the innovation happening of the sector based in UAE.
Interesting. And Samantha, I want to bring you in here. We often talk about what Abu Dhabi can do similar to Silicon Valley. I'm wondering, what can Abu Dhabi do differently to Silicon Valley to get ahead?
Yeah, so you might be familiar that many of the startups based in Silicon Valley most of them are deep tech startups. So these days, lots of consumer focus or entertainment kinds of content startups are moving to New York from Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley is a kind of home of the geeks and deep techs. But here in UAE, they are very mixed. So it's a young country, and it's one of the best spot for the mixturing of all the culture and technology from the world. So more than 90% of the population here is foreigners. So there are lots of opportunity for the contents and retail industry as well.
Right.
And also the mission of the leadership here from the government, they want to positioning UAE not just as a capital of capital, but also the technology hub for the whole GCC. So with their vision, there are lots of opportunity for the deep tech as well to position here in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. But what I'm seeing the missing part is relatively the builders.
Right.
So there are lots of investors. There are plenty of the funds around the city, and there are lots of founders around here to getting for the fundraising or make a new headquarters for the GCC, blah blah. But there are not that many real builder, the developer or talented operator from the world. So one of the mission from Hashit is nurturing the talent and ecosystem. So one of the developer nurturing program we have operated more than 3 years is named Protocol Camp. It's a Web3 developer boot camp for the Southeast, from the South Korea and entire Asia for the last 3 years. And along with the Abu Dhabi government, we plan to launch our protocol camp in Abu Dhabi from next year to nurturing the developer ecosystem.
And I just want to bring in Samantha here. I mean, you're based in London, and Kind of the same question, really. I mean, everyone talks about trying to imitate the success of Silicon Valley. What can Abu Dhabi do differently? Really interested to get a sort of global perspective on that question.
Yeah, so I think a lot's been
Just move the mic a little bit closer.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot's been covered really well there. So probably took a lot of the words out of my mouth. But I think, like, there are things that Silicon Valley has that are unique attributes, right? So obviously the culture, creating culture is challenging, right? Certainly with the stroke of a pen. But I think the spirit of founders backing other founders, of like celebrating taking a risk, right? So people feeling that there won't be significant reputational or career damage if they go off the corporate ladder and try something. That's hard to replicate, but also I think Silicon Valley benefited from a very unique historical moment, right? And multiple times over. So R&D, that was part of a national imperative, and then universities coming into force, and then software, and you know, that a young founder working in their garage can churn something out pretty effectively. I think, though, other places like here can seize their own historical moment. And it feels like that's what is happening, and I think what was described, right, of saying there are industries that you can create ecosystems around, create national champions. I'm also in the digital asset field, so we see that quite clearly here, right, where we see some ingredients, so whether it's kind of liquidity pools and bringing on banks and leveraging the capital that's here, the regulatory environment, so giving clear frameworks, connecting startups to enterprise. I know, Nora, that backstage you were saying that you do a lot of that here, right? So with your startups, not just sort of mentoring founders, but actually helping them get their first customer and being able to scale. So yeah, I think what it can do that Silicon Valley did is just honing kind of the unique moment, historical, and focusing on one sector.
Got you. Okay, and can you share a specific example of a company that is non-US domiciled and has kind of gone on to global leadership and has won great success? And what can founders in the room take from that specific example?
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious to me is Spotify, I think, because so many of us probably use it every day. And it does feel like a parallel with what I was referencing with digital assets, right? Where my understanding is they did take advantage of a pretty permissive digital IP framework and then go global early. So I think it's easy as a startup to say, we want to really own this local market, and we're going to dominate it, and we're going to build so narrowly for it. I think you always have to tailor your product. You always have to have a GM who understands what local users want and how that's different maybe from the origin. But you do need to have sites to grow fast. And so I think they certainly did that. The product's always been geared to people everywhere. And then in crypto, I'll just drop one, but I think Binance, I think it's some crazy, like within 18 months was the dominant exchange in the world. You go to, the product feels like it was built for kind of global person everywhere, accessing global liquidity, so yeah.
Yeah. And Noor, you focus a lot on the local market in the Middle East. Do you think that venture capital companies should be looking at more deals in the Middle East? Because it seems like a lot of VCs focus on the US. So curious to get your perspective on that.
But they are, Alex. I think, last year we had $2.4 billion of funding in the region, of which 52% came from outside the region. So there's a lot of venture capital dollars globally looking at the region as a percentage of the region. But when we think of the broader MENA region, with the UAE being one of the centers of innovation here, $2.4 billion last year in a world where you had $288 billion deployed is less than 1% of global venture funding. So the short answer is yes, there is so much space to grow from here. We're still less than 1% of global venture funding as a broader region, but it is half from outside. I think what people take a look at when they look at the region is really how much of this is copycat plays, how much is emulation versus innovation. And I think there needs to be a little bit more faith in the regional innovation scale-ups coming out of here.
Got you. And in terms of, if you're a startup looking to attract talent, to kind of grow and scale your company, is it difficult to get the top talent to the Middle East and to the UAE, or is that quite an easy thing to do?
what we've seen is that it's become increasingly easier, especially over the last 5 years. And many founders, especially that we've invested in the last, I would say, 18 or 24 months, are second and third time founders that are moving to the region to set up their next company here in the UAE. And part of the argument they make is they say, you know, I've had a great first or second exit abroad. I want to set up my next company here. It's not just the taxes or the wonderful weather. It's also the fact that I can attract talent and I can hire whoever I want and bring them in to help me build. That's very different to what other economies are experiencing around the world, which is that it's harder to get your talent to come into the country and build with you. So I think the war on talent, or the attraction for talent in this market, is definite. It's not, oh, is it happening? Isn't it happening? It's by far happening. And I think on the stage before us, you had someone say between 400,000 and 1 million families are moving here next year. I've been here 30 years, and I've seen this country go up and down, and I've seen the population evolve, but even for me, that's a really high number.
Yes, and Samantha, if you want to grow a company and be really successful, what are 2 or 3 maybe unglamorous things that founders can do to really grow and develop their business?
Yeah, so I think one is, we keep getting back to talent. So whether it's encouraging people to leave top jobs to start a company or to move here for their second act, right, so repeat founders. The other is just, we do know incentive systems work. It's really hard to get the best people if you can't have them be part of the success of the company they're going to build. So I think like labor law, right, and then also tax law around issuing, like whether you tax options, right, as salary and all of this, and how you can incentivize that. So that's one. And then I think the second, maybe the kind of bare bones unglamorous, is, there's one thing to say regulatory isn't going to get in your way or be predictable, and I think for crypto, that was something they lusted after for the last years, is like, just don't come after me or enforce me. I think you can go even further now and have it be a little more like specific rules that advance companies. So for example, just make licensing fast, right? Have one point of contact that is your regulatory contact in the government who routes things effectively. Yeah, and for government or banks, right, make it so that it's really clear, expedited with them, how they can interact with startups, how they can document, how they can log changes.
Yeah, and Simon, I want to finish with you. We have 3 minutes left. What advice would you give to startups looking to establish and grow in the UAE, and what are some of the common pitfalls that they often make?
Yeah, so there be lots of misconception or prejudice for many of the foreign founders to visit here. They have some dream about getting the easy money or king money, right, or just there are lots of easy opportunities to be here. But what I found for the last few years is a very unique and complex ecosystem. So we have to respect the original culture and the rules of the ecosystem, and also some of the part of the culture and the ecosystem is made by the foreign contributors. So be the long-term contributor and part of the ecosystem is the most important to understand the ecosystem. And also many of the key kinds of key leaders or opinion leaders are expecting the what kinds of startup founders or challengers to contribute to the ecosystem. So that's the most important thing.
I see. And we have 1 minute left, so I want to pick the brains of Noor on this around financing. And if you're a small business in the UAE, how easy is it to access financing? Because my understanding is that if you're a local bank, they have to lend to the big corporates, and then the sort of the small and medium-sized companies struggle to get access to capital. Is that a correct assessment, or would you take a different view?
Are you suggesting financing capital debt, not equity?
Yes.
So I do think there's a huge amount of venture debt in the region right now compared to 3 years ago. So I think it's accelerating very, very quickly. To take a 10,000-foot view, this country had the second highest GDP growth rate in the world. this year. So this is a very, very fast-growing economy. And with that comes everything in terms of financial instruments. So venture debt, private credit, bank financing, all look very different today than they did 3 years ago, and they will look different again in 3 years. So to ask me today, how difficult is it? For our strong companies, venture debt and private credit's available, right? For those companies that might not be able to handle it, it's not. The risk tolerance is lower than it is in other markets, but it's changing very quickly. But it comes back to this is a very high growth economy, a lot of innovation, a lot of disruption, friendly regulators, incredible talent, and when you pull those together, the financial instruments that enable that talent will continue to grow.
Thank you. It's certainly an interesting time for startups in the UAE, so thank you guys, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you very much.